Have you ever seen a child smile even when their eyes look tired? The kind of smile that feels rehearsed, almost too perfect, like a mask carefully placed over something fragile? This is Daniel's smile. A boy who learned far too early that to be loved, he must always be agreeable, always be pleasing, always be good. But behind that smile is silence. Behind those bright eyes, a quiet ache. Because when a child learns that love depends on their performance, something inside begins to fracture. Daniel was the kind of child who would clean up toys before being asked, who would whisper sorry even when he wasn't at fault. At school, teachers praised him. He's such a delight, never causes trouble. At home, his parents nodded in approval. His politeness was proof he was being raised right. But what no one noticed was what Daniel never said. He didn't say he was scared at night. He didn't say when the loud voices in the house made him cry. He didn't say when he felt invisible. Because every time he hinted at his real feelings, the response was quick. Don't be difficult. Stop overreacting. Be a good boy. So Daniel adapted. He smiled bigger. He agreed faster. He buried his needs deeper. Because somewhere along the way, he learned a painful rule. Love must be earned through pleasing others. Psychologists call this conditional regard, the belief that your worth is tied to meeting other people's expectations. Children raised in environments where affection feels dependent on obedience or performance often internalize what's known as the people-pleasing schema. In simpler terms, they learn to erase themselves to keep others happy, and over time, they create what some call a false self, a polished version of who they are, built entirely to win approval. The real self, messy and emotional, is pushed into the shadows. It's live. Key a child stepping onto a stage every single day. Spotlight shining, audience clapping, but never allowed to leave. The performance becomes endless. The costume becomes skin. The mask becomes face. And the longer the act goes on, the harder it becomes to remember who they really are beneath it all. Now imagine Daniel grown up. He's the reliable coworker who never says no. The friend who always answers late-night calls. The partner who gives and gives and gives until he collapses. On the outside, he looks kind, dependable, selfless. On the inside, he feels invisible. Psychologists warn that lifelong people-pleasers often struggle with anxiety, depression, and burnout. Because when you spend years suppressing your needs, your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. Your body carries the weight of every unshed tear, every unspoken no. And relationships? They become unbalanced. Friends and partners may grow used to the giving, never realizing the quiet resentment building underneath. Because when you're trained to always say yes, the world stops asking what you want. And invisibility is not peace. It is loneliness, dressed up in politeness. Research out of the University of Michigan shows that children raised in high-demand, low-empathy homes are more likely to become adults with perfectionistic or people-pleasing tendencies. Another study from Berkeley found that altruism only increases well-being when it is authentic. When giving is forced by fear of rejection, it actually lowers happiness and increases stress. Here lies the paradox. The more you please others, the more you abandon yourself. And every act of self-abandonment builds a quiet monster inside. Resentment, exhaustion, even anger. At first, it leaks out in small ways. Snapping at someone you love, feeling drained after social events, secretly hoping someone will finally notice your sacrifices. But if ignored for years, it can explode, leaving you shocked at the stranger you've become. Because masks, when worn too long, suffocate the person beneath them. But here's the truth. This story does not have to end in silence. Healing begins with one radical shift, realizing that your worth is not dependent on pleasing anyone. It starts with awareness, noticing when you say yes out of fear rather than desire. It continues with boundaries, learning that a gentle no can be more honest, more loving, than a forced yes. It grows through self-compassion, speaking to yourself with the same kindness you've given everyone else. And sometimes, it requires help. Therapy, inner work, or simply safe relationships where your real voice is welcomed. Think of it like planting roots after years of being only branches. When you care for your roots, the tree no longer bends to every passing wind. It stands firm. And from that strength, kindness flows naturally, not as performance, but as truth. If you've ever felt like Daniel, if you've ever smiled while hiding your exhaustion, if you've ever feared that saying no would cost you love, hear this. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are simply carrying lessons from a childhood where love felt conditional. But now, you have the chance to rewrite the script, to step off the stage, to set down the mask. Because real kindness includes you. Real love does not demand your erasure. And real worth was always yours, long before you learned to please. So the next time you feel that automatic yes rising on your lips, pause. Ask yourself, is this coming from fear or from freedom? The answer may just be the first step back to yourself. You matter. Your truth matters. And the world needs not your performance, but the real, unmasked you.